Hey, world, what up? If you guys have been following the channel, you know I've been going hard on the Minnesota Timberwolves for a long time, and not in a good way. Man, I've always stated the Timberwolves need to blow it up. They should have done so during the offseason. I'm not a big fan of Karl Anthony Towns. He is not an alpha. He is a beta. He's been in the NBA around 6 seasons or so, and we expected him and the Timberwolves around after 2015 or in that mix that him, Andrew Wiggins, Zach LaVine, and the crew, they would be the next, the quote unquote dynasty, like a young Thunder, and they would make an NBA Finals appearance and go on from there. And Karl Anthony Towns would be, one of the best big men, not up there in all time, but he would be, he would be he would be like a top five player, somewhere in that mix. And if you had Bleacher Report and ESPN when they stated players who are 22, 23 or below in the next couple of seasons, best player in the world, and if you were to had to uh, start a franchise with a number one pick for a young guy or whatever, or just anyone in general in the next 5 seasons, they would have picked Karl Anthony Towns first, and they put LeBron, right after him, something like that, man. But we can see as of right now, Karl Anthony Towns is not that player, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to miss the playoffs once again, which they've already been eliminated. They can't make it, so we all knew this. In the offseason, I stated, even if they're healthy, and they're a pretty nice team when healthy, but even when they're healthy, I still did not expect them to make the playoffs. One. Number two, it would have been a waste of time. And three, they need to go a new direction of rebuilding. You drafted Anthony Edwards, who potentially could win the Rookie of the Year award, but since LaMelo Ball is back from his injury, or going to be back from his injury, I fully expect it to they'll probably throw it back to LaMelo Ball, but who knows about that one. I'm not too focused on that. Besides from Anthony Edwards, who's the bright side within their team, you've seen a couple of controversial things and not good scenarios for the roster. So for number one, Malik Beasley had the situation allegedly with Scottie Pippen's wife. You did have scenarios of D'Angelo Russell, who was out for a good portion. Same thing with Karl Anthony Towns. And besides from that, this team does not make too much sense within their roster. I mean, trying to bring back Ricky Rubio as a veteran, I wasn't too crazy about that move as of right there. And you got a bunch of young names out there. I mean, you have Ed Davis, Jarrett Culver, Jake Layman, Jaden McDaniels, Jalen Nowell. You got Hernan Gomez. I mean, Jared Vanderbilt. So on and so forth. And Naz Reid. This team does not have the right veterans, not the right structure, and you can tell that they're just trying to build off Karl Anthony Towns, D'Lo, and Anthony Edwards. Now, I've stated Karl Anthony Towns and D'Lo have to go. And if they don't get it done this offseason, I'm just going to give up on the Timberwolves, which I pretty much have the mentality for, man. They need to trade away Cat. They need to trade away D'Lo, rebuild with Anthony Edwards. And then you can always go on and so forth with like team branding and just a new design, new era. But besides that, we're going to jump into here more on the jump about next season expectations for the Timberwolves, where they're at. But yeah, we'll go on from there.
It's a make or miss league.
It's a make or miss league.
Make. Miss.
It's a make or miss league.
Thank you, Zion. Make drama. Take a listen.
Trent with it. Trent, 2 seconds. Trent drills it.
And man, that was a steal for both trades. I mean, that's a W for both the Toronto Raptors and the Blazers with Norm Powell and Gary Trent Jr. Kudos to them. You barely see a W in a high rate like those two, but it was a good move for both.
For the win, Gary Trent Jr.
And you don't try and take a charge.
All right, so shouts to Gary Trent Jr., because that is a hard shot to make. But on the defensive end, foul or flop, what do you guys think?
You don't do that. You don't do that. I'm not saying it wasn't, but you got to stand up. You got to man up. Don't try and bait him. So you're trying, that's a flop.
That is a flop. I mean, you got to man up at the worst.
It's mismatches. It's mismatches. It's mismatches. It's mismatches. It's mismatches.
Jeez.
I'm 2 years in. When do I?
Russell, playing for the first time since February 8th, still managed to lead the Timberwolves in scoring despite that lengthy layoff following knee surgery. 25 points in 24 minutes off the bench. First of all, very happy for him that he is back on the court. It has been a long road for that entire team this year. Perk, what's the ceiling for a healthy Wolves team? And let's just say it next season, because this season is not going to happen, really.
What?
Well, the last 8 games, the Timberwolves have won 6 out of the last 8. They've won 4 in a row, back to back against the Utah Jazz. And those were close games, but Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Lo, they showed up with Anthony Edwards. So we're finally seeing those 3 finally play together at a high rate. Knowing the Timberwolves of how they can bring in some big names out there, I fully expect them to hold on to Karl-Anthony Towns, D'Lo, and Anthony Edwards to run it back next season if they can be healthy and try to bring in some pretty nice pieces as veterans in the back run. Now, will they still make the playoffs next season? Who knows about it? I mean, now they have a new play-in tournament that looks like it's going to be unanimous on the decision to be permanent going on. It gives some teams more excuses to be more comfortable with management on keeping these players and not really going in and risking things out there. But I'm not high on the Timberwolves like that. Now, they've had some great outings. Again, they beat the Jazz back-to-back, the Houston Rockets, and as well as the Golden State Warriors who are trying to get into the playoffs. But again, Karl-Anthony Towns is a beta. They don't have a true alpha within their team. Anthony Edwards is too young. He's around 19 years of age. And Anthony Edwards, I mean, he's going to be a great player, man, but I don't expect him to be that true alpha out there. I mean, looking at his demeanor within his interviews, he seems pretty not premature. He seems pretty immature within his standings, but I'm not going to knock him on that. He's in a poverty franchise, but not everyone has that masculine demeanor. But, with Minnesota, I expect them because you just can tell the track record when it comes to their history. They're going to try to keep Cat, hold on to him. He is around 25 years of age. He's still fairly young within his time. And D'Lo as well is around 24, 25 as well. So they're probably going to keep him, but in honesty, they need to rebuild and let him go. Now, next season, to answer the question for Rachel Nichols, they're going to stay healthy for next season. I think within a peak situation, I mean, I got to look at the teams in the Western Conference. The Jazz are still going to be elite. The Suns. The Clippers, I fully expect Kawhi to re-sign, and they'll be a fairly similar team, so they'll be up there. The Nuggets, Jamal Murray is going to be out maybe the whole season, but I'm still going to put the Nuggets in the playoff picture. The Lakers, yes. The Dallas Mavericks, yes. We have 2 more spots. The Blazers, who knows what direction they go, but I'll still give them the benefit of the doubt. The Warriors with Klay should be back, so they should fill that out. But you still have the Memphis Grizzlies, who've been always a young, respectable team out there. The Spurs are going to implode. The Pelicans need to get better, but with Stan Van Gundy, I doubt that's the case. The Timberwolves could have that 9th or 10th seed for the play-in tournament, but I don't see any true good peak for them.
Next season, I could possibly see them be getting in the playoffs and not in the play-in. I could see them being a top 6 team in the Western Conference, especially with Anthony Edwards. He's going to get better. Karl-Anthony Towns is one of the best bigs in the game today, and we all know that D'Lo is a walking bucket. They have a miniature big 3.
Yeah, no.
A team that I would knock on the door to get Karl-Anthony Towns would be the Golden State Warriors. Now, with the Golden State Warriors, again, you used to have Kevin Durant within that 3, the add-on, but I think they could really use a big out there like Karl-Anthony Towns, who is a beta, but they still have Steph Curry's the alpha, the number 1 guy out there. Karl-Anthony Towns, he can play in that system fairly nice as a stretch 5 and dominate in the inside. Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye.
I think D'Lo's a bucket. I think we know, but I think ultimately, until they are until D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns are your second and third best player, I don't think you're an actual high-level postseason team.
See, I thought you were going to say until Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell are consistently healthy and playing together. Can we let's
No,
just
I think
get
they
that
can make the
first.
postseason. I think they can make the postseason with Anthony Edwards and all. Like he said, I think they could be a 7 seed. But your goal is not to be a 7 seed. Yes, that's a step in the right direction. But how do you get to 3, 4, 1, 2? How do you get to that? You got
Bingo. Thank you, RJ. And I stated before, even if they were to make the playoffs, so what? I mean, what's your direction out there? That's why you have to rebuild. Usually for teams, when you do have a young player within the draft, you have around a 6 to 7 year plan to where the majority thing is you want to win a championship, but most likely that's not going to happen. So if anything, get 1 finals appearance or get 1 conference finals appearance, if anything, in that range. Now, that was way off for the Karl-Anthony Towns experiment. we thought the Timberwolves could potentially reach one NBA Finals by now. I mean, if we're looking back into 2015, we said around 6-7 years from now, the Timberwolves should have one Finals appearance. We stated that. So that shows the digression and expectations for Karl-Anthony Towns and how he still can't lead a team and they're still in the bottom of the barrel. Now, he was hurt, same thing with D'Lo, but still, he's a beta. He's not an alpha.
Have better players.
Dude, haven't they made the playoffs like once in 15 or 16 years?
They made the playoffs once because they forced and brought in Jimmy Butler. Then they forced bringing in these veterans as Tom Thibodeau as the head coach, Taj Gibson, Jamal Crawford, Jeff Teague. And when they did so, they hindered the process because there was two different timelines. There was the Andrew Wiggins, Karl-Anthony Towns timeline of things as they were progressing, getting better each year. But then you brought in a quick and an immediate timeline for these vets who pretty much were a first-round exit for the Western Conference to begin with the Golden State Warriors in that packed West with the Rockets and the crew. So you put Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins in an awkward situation. That's why Jimmy Butler, demanded so much from them. But their timeline did not resemble the same thing within Jimmy Butler. They were not a contender. So that's why there was kind of toxicity. That's why there was butting heads. It didn't make sense in that regard. And whenever Jimmy Butler left the next following season, I mean, you were forced to have Tom Thibodeau, Jeff Teague out there, and some vets that it didn't make any sense in the direction to build around Andrew Wiggins and Karl-Anthony Towns. So they messed up within that part. They did not build a nice team of Karl-Anthony Towns and Wiggins together. They should have kept Zach LaVine, but that's another conversation for another day. But they did not nurture these players and building them up. They ruined the process, the timeline, and they put them in awkward situations. But you know what? I'm not gonna let KP and them finish. I'm gonna end it off there. But the Timberwolves, they're not gonna make the playoffs this season as expected. Next season, they could make a play-in tournament, but it doesn't make sense, man. You got to rebuild. They're not gonna win a championship. Even if you get into the playoffs, you're gonna lose in the first round. And for what reason? Then the next season after that, Cat will be around 27. I mean, what do you want from him? I don't know. Some of these NBA teams, they're funny, man. Management is, I don't know. They're just there for the paycheck, but it is what it is. I'm out.